Okay. For sure.
This is Patriot Sentinel, where truth doesn't whisper, it roars. Hosted by Richard Tortorello, we're cutting through the noise to talk government, politics, fairness, the Constitution, community, and God. Stand up, speak out. The watch begins now.
Death to Canada! Death to the United States! And death to Israel! We are Hezbollah, and we are Hamas! Israel, burn, burn! Palestinians to
I don't know. Our country, it is not looking good on all fronts. I'm Richard Tortorello, host of the Patriot Sentinel. This is our second try tonight because we had technical difficulties, and we're going to blame it on Apple products. I love Apple products, but my gosh, the Blue Exodus, the Red Scare, and the government shutdown are the three topics we'll be discussing tonight. New York City mayor to be Zohran Mamdani was elected with 50% of the vote, and police officers by the droves are resigning, retiring, or leaving for different states. When your police officers leave because of a mayor, that sounds so reminiscent of what happened here in Norman in 2020 with the police defunding and our far left liberal city council members who thought it was a good idea to defund the Norman Police Department. So we have a guest on tonight, and I want to introduce my co-host, Cam Ulola, and we're going to have to come up with a better name, but the Falcon. I can never pronounce that last name. I'm going to have to put it on the screen and put it in spell it out phonetically so I can pronounce it correctly. And I hate butchering your name, but now you know how I feel when they try to say Richard Tortorello or Car Tortorello. I mean, I had to go ahead and change my whole name when I first moved to Oklahoma because they couldn't say my name. And then we have my other co-host, Gloria Bannister, the Brat One. And it's not that she's really a brat, but we're all military dependents. At least her and I are, and that's what we call each other. And then Major Mike Hoskins, a retired Oklahoma City police officer. We called him Dave in the last segment, and but he prefers Mike, so we're going to stick with Mike. Mike, how you doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
You know, the police. Were you here in Oklahoma in 2020 when Norman PD was defunded by the city council?
Yeah, I'm born and raised right here, so I was still working at OCPD when that happened. And we got to watch that, the dynamics of that unfold as a result of that with the defunding concerns. So absolutely.
So you know what? You made an interesting comment the other day on a post I made about the New York City Police Department and their blue exodus. And you had made a comment that you can judge a community, the barometer, by the police and first responders. Now, I thought that was so profound. I wanted to ask you, what did you mean by that?
Well, it doesn't matter which profession you're in as a first responder, whether you're police, fire, EMT, or whatever. We all take an oath of office, and when you're talking about the police departments or police force, that oath of office is to protect and serve. And so, but what does that really mean, protect and serve? Well, I define it throughout my 31 years with OCPD as protecting and serving means that we want to improve the quality of life for people in our community. And equally as important, we want to lessen the criminal fears that anyone may have in our communities. So when you're looking at taking that oath and protecting and serving, and the police or fire, whoever being the barometer their thumb on the pulse of a city, I'm talking about whenever city leadership, whether it be a mayor, city council, city manager, whoever, makes a decision or even makes a comment about defunding a police department, then that immediately sends a ripple wave throughout that police department, and everyone's radars go up, because the fact of the matter is that there's not a single police department that can be successful without the support of the community, and vice versa. There's not a single community that can be successful without the support of their police department. So you start talking about defunding, and you start taking away the tools,
Hmm.
less budget, less equipment, then the job is tough enough. But when you start pulling money from them, and they're unable to buy certain equipment that they need to do their job correctly and safely, all in the name of public safety, then at some point they throw their hands up and say, enough's enough, we're gone. And that's exactly what Norman experienced back in 2020.
Exactly. And New York City is also experiencing it. So they call it the Madami effect. Now, you know what? He has called New York Police Department racist, anti queer, and a major threat to public safety. So, how does that play, with Cam? I'm going to ask you this question. So, we wore the uniform and have a kinship with law enforcement. So when you have a mayor, in this case here, the mayor of New York City, to be calling the New York Police Department racist and anti-queer and a major threat to public safety, what does that make you automatically think if you were in their shoes, listening to your new boss slamming you as a threat to public safety? How would you feel?
So my first question would be, what kind of mentality is, or what kind of approach is this coming from? And the first thing I think of is socialism, Marxism ideals, and literally that's the way that Mao changed China into the regime that's currently. So when you see that, that is again, it's something against the Constitution. When we talk about compromising our constitution, everybody should be staring at it and saying, hey, should we start defending our constitution? Because this Marxist approach is gonna destroy our freedoms, our liberties, the rights
Yep.
that we have here as Americans. So that will be my first red flag. And then I'm moving out of New York. I'm sorry.
With Glory, with over 5,000 eligible officers who can take early retirement by late 2025, in other words, here by the end of the year, which is another month and a half away, and 4,000 who are eligible in January next year alone, right when he takes office, could we see a mass exodus that makes October look small? I mean, what's your prediction for the first 6 months in the new administration? Do you see a mass exodus, or do you think he will walk back what he said about the police?
I think there's going to be a mass exodus because it's already happening. They're already leaving ahead of who the new governor is going to be, and
Hmm.
it's just a recipe for it's a chaos. It's going to be chaotic. And not
No,
only that, but there's already truckers that aren't coming in to deliver food. So you're going to have high prices. You're not going to be able to get the food that you need in the stores because he's imposing a tax that truckers are not going to pay, a fuel tax, taxes, you name it. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be like you're in a third world country in a matter of just months.
well,
It's going to
you know
be
what it
chaos,
is.
pure chaos.
So socialism is when the wealthy leave and the poor are left alone to defend themselves. Now, Mike, Houston Police Department is literally running Facebook ads. Are you disgusted with the election of the new mayor? And they're
Uh-huh.
offering $50,000 signing bonuses. ICE, Florida, Syracuse. Everyone is recruiting
New
NYPD
York.
officers.
Yep.
Is this new? Do you think, Mike, this is the new normal? I mean, are we watching a brain drain of America's largest police department happening in real time?
I'll tell you, as a former director of training and over recruiting, to fill a academy class of 55 young recruits, we would go through approximately 1,000 applicants to
Right.
fill that class. Okay.
Wow.
Well, that was back in '04, '05, '06, '07, back in that time frame. I don't know what the numbers are today, but when you start looking at um, people who are elected officials calling the shots, and we all remember when citizen advisory boards became a popular thing for police departments, and I supported that 100%. And it's worked well, and Oklahoma City continues to have a citizen advisory board. But the difference is that those people aren't making decisions on disciplinary issues. And like the mayor elect in New York City wanting to have a voice in disciplinary issues
Hmm.
for the police
Hmm.
department. Well, that changes the game, and police are all about avoiding what was going to put the public at risk. And
Hmm.
the starting blocks for that is at the door of the mayor's office, especially in New York City with mayor elect. The starting blocks are right there at his office in terms of what city can thrive with a 35 to 40% of the police force resigning. I don't
Hmm.
know of very many that can sustain a safe city with that happening. And so my comment goes back to that, the barometer with the police department. Also, the starting blocks are at that mayor's office in terms of
Hmm.
step up to the plate. Your pre-election campaign was fueled on these comments about the police being racist and Islamophobic and all this kind of stuff that was created from it. Well, enough's enough. Come on, let's get back into reality and understand what the purpose is of the police. And every one of those men and women took an oath to protect and serve in New York City and every other department across the nation. So let's don't threaten to defund the police department. Let's don't call them all racist and all this nonsense. Wrap your arms around them, mayor, city council, whoever, and support them rather than
Hmm.
create what you created.
Yeah, they seem to think these liberal city council members, communist leaning cities, that psychiatrists and psychologists can go out there and fight crime. We had a running joke in Norman is when we would have berserker episodes in the homeless camps. What would happen if we had sent a mental health professional, a counselor, to go and de-escalate something she wasn't trained for. He or she wasn't trained for. And so what they're saying in New York City is no different than what they said in Norman back in 2020, is that they don't think the police can do the job the way that they expect them to do it. So you see all the demonization of the police when in fact they are. I'm talking about the city of Norman. I think our officers are the best trained in the state. Okay, that's just my personal opinion. That's because we live here, and I had the privilege of being the city council member, and I was a big supporter of the police. I'm a big supporter of all law enforcement and first responders, and we all have a
Hmm.
job in our own lane, and that lane does not include abdicating the training that you officers receive in de-escalation techniques or any other situation where you have to go in and put your life on the line to make an arrest or God forbid, to when a murder has happened or someone was killed. Counselors, they have their places, but they're not on the front line. They're behind us. So that's a good point you made, Mike. The next thing
Hmm.
up on the next segment,
What
the video we
can I
saw.
make one quick?
Yeah, go
I want
ahead.
to make one quick comment to that real quick. What I ensured that every police recruit that ever raised their hand and took the oath understood that you want to be successful in law enforcement, then you treat others with respect. You use discretion and common sense when you're making decisions. And then you're going to
Hmm.
mess up. When you mess up, you fess up, you fix it, and you move on. And that's part of the role of being a cop. And the community needs to understand that, and the mayors and city council, everybody needs to understand that. They're going to mess up, and we fess up, we fix it, and we move on.
Yeah, I don't think the problem is bad cops. I don't think that's the issue. I think, we all mess up. But I think the real issue is is okay, let's be honest. Most liberals do not like the police. They see the police as a hedge between what they view should be good policing and community response. And what they want is totally different. Now look at New York City, San Francisco, Chicago, Philadelphia, all these major cities with left leaning leadership. We see store break-ins where they allow them to put as much crap in their carts and then leave. And the police can't do anything. Look at Chicago. Look at Portland and ICE. They're being attacked every day, and the police were told to stand down. They have no respect for law
Weak,
enforcement.
weak
They have
leadership.
they have they have no regard. They have very little regard for private property and people's lives. Because all they want to do, I saw it firsthand, is to sow confusion and chaos. Okay? That's all they want to do. New York City is in for a rude awakening. So, we have friends in New York City who still live there because they see hope. And I hope that you guys receive the hope. But I fear that it's not going to happen. And if you can, I would leave New York City and go to Syracuse, go down south, go to Houston. It's not going to end up good for the residents of that city, and it's going to be crime ridden, made for movie TV episodes every night on the news. And when you have a mayor his constituents hear him say that his own police department, soon to be, are racist, uh, they're phobic against whatever, and they're a threat to public safety, that's right there is signaled the end of law enforcement in New York City. So good luck to New York City. Now we have to get on to the next segment. It's about Sharia law in America and Sharia law in our closest state, which is Texas. Governor Abbott recently signed legislation, he says, that will ban Sharia law compounds in Texas, specifically targeting the Epic City development near Dallas. It's a 402-acre development with homes, schools, and a mosque. The developers say it's open to everyone and will follow American law, but the DOJ investigated and found no wrongdoing. But where is the disconnect? Where is the disconnect? We see videos that have been posted by people in Dallas, in parts of Texas, in New York City, and around the nation of what we see proponents of Sharia law in the streets. So, is this a legitimate threat, or is it all political theater, Gloria? You've been following this. What do you think?
I'm livid. I'm just livid. And listen, nothing is going to change my mind to accept Sharia law in the United States of America. Okay. And so you can say it's a First Amendment right all you want. And that's what happened back in 2012 when Paul Zierix with the state election board was sued by someone from the community, and I can't remember his name exactly because 2012 was a while back, but it was based on the ACLU determined and said that it was a First Amendment right to all Muslims. And I thought to myself, their First Amendment right is getting to come to America from their country, but it's not their First Amendment right to produce something that is going to be harmful to the women and girls in their community, right? So I even Googled it. I asked AI to tell me what Sharia law is. And it says this: Sharia law can be in America as a matter of private, voluntary religious practice for individuals protected by the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. However, Sharia cannot supersede or replace U.S. federal, state, and local laws in the American legal system, but yet they're doing it. Okay. They're doing it because there's two cities in Texas that are taken over, just like they did to Dearborn, Michigan. We have a group here in Oklahoma. I don't even remember back in the day. I don't even know what
Mm.
year it was. They found all those Qurans and they burned them. Do you remember that, Mike?
I
And that
do,
was here
yeah.
in Oklahoma. And
Yeah.
that was down southeast. And, I think that what people are misguided on is what Sharia stands for, and it's not a true law, right? They're saying it's biblical. The Quran tells them how to eat, live, drink, halal, be kind to each other, but that is not what it is. Sharia took over in 1974. Why 1974 if it was always in the Quran? Right? And women went from wearing dresses like me with their hair down, wearing makeup, so on and so forth, to wearing hijabs, and all you could see was their slits of their eyes. No to Sharia law, period. So I found a Randy Fine out of Florida. He is in the House of Representatives, and he produced a bill. It's been introduced, and it's in the 25-26 legislature, and it is to prohibit the application of Sharia law in the United States where such application would violate constitutional rights and for other purposes. And it goes on. It is out of the 119th Congress, first session, and it's HR 5512, in case you want to look that up. And I did call him, and I left him a voicemail, of course. And I know he's one, I'm sure he's furloughed, right? And so basically, this is the No Sharia Act. It was introduced by Congressman Randy Fine, I told you, and Senator Tommy Tuberville. And if this AI tells me that this is the First Amendment right of the U.S. Constitution, but it cannot supersede or replace, why are all of a sudden do we have governors like Governor Abbott, and we have these representatives having to do a bill to say that we'll never have it? I mean, we even had something here in Oklahoma. And so I think, all in all, we have to be aware of what Sharia law actually truly is and what it means for the United States of America and for women and girls. Okay,
All
you'll
right,
never
good
see me in a hijab with a
good
slit.
point,
So
Gloria.
I have these questions for you, each one of you. Oh, hang on. Okay, so Rashar,
Yo, what's the
how
question?
how how do you what? Okay, how are disagreements among scholars and those who think that we should have Sharia law versus those who want it resolved in no Sharia law?
I don't look.
Does that make
That's not a question. That's not a question I would ask. So let me point out that I was born and raised in Germany,
No, I like that
and
question.
the German government had a plan to allow Turks to come in under the work program,
Yes, they did.
with the caveat,
Yep.
okay, that they learn the language and they
Yep.
assimilate into the culture, the German
Yep.
culture, and then in exchange, their
Mm,
kids will automatically gain German citizenship. And so what happened, because that was the law at the time, is that the Turks came to the country, they assimilated, and they learned their language to a point where it was hard to discern who was a German and who was a Turkish implant, besides their
right.
name and the way they looked and where they ate. Okay, so
Right.
this is a cautionary tale that when you come to America, we have a specific culture that is Christian in nature, and we know that in the Jewish community they have their own type of laws, but their laws, when they have their own, um, basically they can resolve issues that are non-judicial in their community, but it does not supersede U.S. law. And the incompatibility with Sharia law is that they think, most people that follow Sharia law, that it supersedes the Constitution and local law enforcement. That's the issue. Okay, you see them out in the streets, they're proclaiming it. In fact, there was a video we showed last week where in New York City, in Times Square, after the mayor's election, we had, and we showed the clip of Muslims celebrating in the street, claiming that Sharia law will be the law of the land in New York City. Okay,
That's right.
so they said, we want to produce this and we want to spread this to Brooklyn, to Queens, to every part of New York City. Their intent and why it's incompatible with American culture is that
Hmm.
they think it's a supreme law of the land. And we've
They
seen
do.
what they've done
Yep.
overseas in Europe. They've taken over most European cities. And I like to see that some people are standing back and they're fighting back. But the point
Hmm.
is, I disagree with
Wow.
any scholar's issues on should we accept this? No. American culture is
That's what I'm
distinct, like
getting
I said
at.
earlier. So hold on, Gloria.
No,
American
no,
culture
I'm just getting ready.
is distinct, and the law of the land is the U.S. Constitution. Anything
That's
or
right.
anyone who tries to supersede that, they need to be shut down.
I
It's an
agree.
enemy.
But don't you think, though, with the amount of Muslim populations that we have across the United States, even here in Oklahoma, but because that Islamic law governs their lives, and I've watched this over the last 4 years. Um, their prayer times. It guides and dictates how they live and the way that things should be followed. And it encompasses such a broad range of rules and guidelines, and especially for women as well, in terms of marriage, divorce, dowries, and whatnot.
Right.
So, don't you think we need to be able to accept that in our communities for the Muslims that are in our communities?
Well, that was actually that was going to be my question to you, because I knew, since you're not, you're, because of your life and what you've done for the police, I was going to ask you how you saw the Muslim faith versus the Sharia side of it with the women in hijabs, and how you witness that as a person. Because here's the thing, I do understand that that's their religious law, it's not mine, and I will not assimilate to it, and that's the biggest difference. So that's my problem. They're trying to make me, they want these people that are crying out for it, they want me to live that way. I don't want to
Mm.
assimilate that way, so why are they forcing me? If we allow them to do it, they need to
I,
keep
I
it
don't
in
I don't
compound, right?
I don't think that'll ever happen, Gloria. That they're going to make us
I
allow.
pray it doesn't.
I I know a lot of Muslims,
Yeah. Yeah.
and love them. I'm impressed by them for the most part,
Yeah.
and their Islamic beliefs. I respect that, and I value that as well. Just like I'm a Christian, and they respect and value my religious beliefs as well. So I think somewhere in here we need to be able to find this common ground, and wrap our arms around everybody, no matter what their religious beliefs are, and if they pray to
Okay.
Allah or whoever.
And I'm not calling out Muslims. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just talking specifically Sharia law. It cannot be for all of us. And so I want to bring this to Cam, because you have a wife, and you have your mother, and you have aunts and whatnot. So how would you feel if Sharia law became into effect and they had to participate?
So thank goodness we live in America. We have the freedom of religion. Now, with that being said, my first question will be, hey, what is my community doing to make sure that we're able to practice in a safe environment, right? So if if the approach is, hey, you gotta exercise X, Y, and Z against your will, then there's an infraction, right? Which the Constitution is the supreme law of the lion, and that's where I will say it's the encroachment of Marxist ideals. It's the
Yep.
same thing, however you want to put it. It's against the principles, it's against the values, it's
Hmm.
against what America's about. So,
Right.
like I've told a lot of my friends who are naturalized citizens, hey, you are here in this country, learn the Western culture. It's okay to be proud from your country, proud where you were born. That's okay. But remember, you're here for the opportunities that you have earned. Use them wisely, because other people from around the world want to be here too.
Hmm.
Good point, Cam. I'm going to interject now and take this conversation. And all I have to look, Mike, I agree with you on your point. Okay.
I do.
Um, all, all, all we're seeing and all we're saying. So I have a lot of Muslim friends in Oklahoma. Most of them are Baha'is, and I respect the culture. They respect ours. So I know a lot of Muslims in Norman and around the state. Um, I know a lot of Persians. here in the city of Norman and around the state. But the people that I know, the Persians that I associate with and know, they have a problem with extreme Islamification of
Yep.
certain areas. So we've seen this happen. So it's not a matter. So we have a Catholic church down the road, and at every hour they do the chime on the clock. Okay, um, nobody complains about this, but I've seen my hometown in Germany being overrun with the extremists that practice Sharia law, and they have to
Yep.
call the prayers 5 times a day, and they sometimes sit in the middle of the street to stop traffic. So that's what most Americans can all agree that they just don't want. We can live in harmony and we can practice each other's religions and respect each other, but I don't
Right.
think America is ready to have the call to prayer. Now, I served half my career in the Middle East in the military, and it is a beautiful sound, but so are the sounds of the church bells too, as well. And which we know today, even recently, that Christians are being slaughtered around the world because of
Hmm.
extremism. Okay. And all I'm
Hmm.
saying is that in Texas, and what we've seen so far, the evidence is that they don't want to coexist with their neighbors. They want to
No.
they want to take over. And I could be wrong because I've had this conversation with many Persians, and they love Trump. They support Trump and everything he's doing, and they come out proudly and proclaim they support Trump as Persians. However, I think we should take a step back with the Sharia law. And what we've seen so far is that what happened to Europe and what's happening to Europe could be a precursor to what may happen here in America. It's just that when they take the Sharia law and they say publicly that it should supersede the U.S. Constitution, that's where we have the problem. Okay, for those persons that have assimilated it,
Right.
they have run businesses, they are pillars of the community, and they're just Persian Americans. Okay, that's the key thing. Persian Americans. They believe that the law of the land is the U.S. Constitution. Okay, they're not here to say you welcomed us into your country,
Right.
but we're here to bring our way of life and change a town, a school, or anything like that. They will not do it. But we have seen it around the nation where
Hmm.
they want to do this, and it could be anecdotal, and I could be wrong. And I think we need more conversations with the faith, Christian faith, the Jewish faith, the Muslim faith, so we all understand what it is that we're trying to say to each other. So, Mike, you had a good point. I agree with you, but the evidence that I've seen so far indicates that the extremists do not want to coexist. They want to do what is said in the Quran, which is to take over by force and to convert. And most Americans will go to war over that. And that's what we don't want to see. I don't want people in the streets fighting each other because of this. And I
Mm-mm.
think it's a good time to have a conversation like this. And you had a good point. And so I'll give you the last word on this before we have to go and wrap up with the government shutdown.
But more than conversation, but education has got to be a big piece of that as well.
Right.
I agree. And in breaking news, President Trump signed the end of the government shutdown. They're funded until the end of January, so it's good news for everybody.
Yep.
That means the military gets paid this week, ICE, everyone gets caught up. And Cam, you're probably the only one here who we can call still working for the federal government. So, how do you feel that President Trump signed a continuing resolution to fund everything through the end of January? Now that we all getting paid, active duty, ICE, TSA, the air traffic controllers, your peers at Tinker Air Force Base who have to come to work and work and had not been paid in almost a month and a half.
Is it surprising?
Oof.
Trump has been telling people what he's gonna do, and the first thing he said is, "Bring this bill and I'll sign it." And how long did it take? it went through the House. It failed a couple times, and now he signed it. Awesome. Now we could get back to work. I'm so excited. I'm happy for my colleagues that are able to come back. It's been since what, October 1st? So it's been, what is it, 43 days? So I'm
43
really
days.
excited, super happy for everybody who's a federal employee. Kudos to those guys. They do an amazing
The standup was about the the ACA, Obamacare.
job.
That was the heart of the shutdown with the premium subsidies. Democrats demanded that they be extended, and I'm glad that the Republicans stood their ground because every time we had a government shutdown, the Republicans, for the sake of the country, would always cave in to what the Democrats wanted. This standing our ground works for all Americans. And I know the Democrat Party does not like what happened, and I think they're about to implode. But without these subsidies, we can see the premiums for the ACA double by the end of next year, and we could be right back into it if they don't come to a solution or funding solution. And I've never been on Obamacare, but it was promised to us that it was going to be the it was going to solve
To
all our
fix it all.
issues
Hmm.
on care, and people could actually afford it. But Mike, being in government, I was a government employee. Cam is currently a government employee. You were employed by the city of Oklahoma City, and insurance. When we go to hire somebody, you know, they often look at what type of health insurance they're going to receive, and if you couldn't get the private care like most of us could, and you had to rely on the ACA or Obamacare, your insurance premiums, Mike, doubled, if not quadrupled. Do you know anyone in your family? Did you yourself experience any increase in premiums because you were forced to go on Obamacare? And I'm not sure how Oklahoma City ran its insurance policy, so you can give us some insight into that. But I think Cam is right overall that Trump did what was best for the nation, and the Democrats who came over on the Senate side did the right thing too to shut to stop the shutdown.
Yeah, so the I guess the good part about working for the city of Oklahoma City is you had several options to choose from when you're looking at healthcare coverage and whatnot. I think some of the biggest concern now that I hear talk about is for the retirees and their healthcare insurance and the astronomical cost of those policies today. We just got our packets in the mail just last week, and some of the guys were talking about the increase in their healthcare cost and how expensive it's getting. So there's a little concern there, and hopefully we'll get some people in the right elected positions that can help us address that on the police pension side of things as
Hmm.
well. So
Well, this is the last call, so we'll start with Mike. And thank you for being a good sport. I know we had technical difficulties earlier on in the show. We had to stop and start again, but that's how it goes. Any last words?
I've enjoyed it. Hope there's some good conversation, discussion, and educational for a lot of people. Look forward to more good things to come with your podcast.
Thank you, Gloria.
Smile because life is beautiful. And then fight. Stay positive. Ah.
Good. Cam, my brother.
So the first thing I'm going to tell everybody, and last thing, is ask questions. It's okay to ask questions, because if you don't ask questions, then you're not going to understand what the root of that problem is. So it could be from government all the way to, hey,
Right.
what do I need to do to pay the bills? So stay curious, my friends.
That is excellent points. And my last word for tonight, I'm choking on my own spit. It
Take a deep
happens.
breath.
Look, we have watched the government shut down for 43 days, and I am proud of President Trump for working with the Congress on both sides to do
Cheers.
what's right for the American people. And so it's called resiliency. It's about being an American. And
Hmm.
oftentimes in politics, we're all in politics. You know, Cam, myself, Gloria, Mike, you never run for office. I'm not sure if you're ever in those crowds. But when it comes to politics, sometimes it is not always good to attack your own side for the sake
That's
of
right.
getting points or getting promoted. We've seen too many people attacking each other in the Republican Party. And I'm only speaking from the Republican Party point of view because we're all Republicans, at least on this show here. And if we can't talk through and ask the questions and try to understand each other, the last thing we need is to attack each other because that further dissolves the cohesiveness of what it means to be an Okie and what it means to be an American. And I think Trump is showing the political world that he may not agree with them, but he's setting a path forward on how we do the most for the overall good. And I think he's done a great job at getting the messaging out. And he's done a great job of supporting both sides because he's been asking that the Democrats come to the table. I will sign a bill if it funds our police, our active duty, our retirees, our
Mhm.
ICE, our TSA. I will sign that, but they didn't come to the table. But he didn't quit. He didn't attack them. And these are the lessons we need to learn from the president is that even here in Oklahoma, we may not agree with each other, even on the other side with the Democrats. But if we stop discussing and talking with each other and resort to attacking each other, then that does not bode well for the entire state. And he has shown us how to do it. And I pray that if you're watching this tonight, don't be one of those folks that attack your fellow Republican or Democrat because you disagree with them. If we agree on 80%, then we're good.
That's
Nobody
right.
agrees on 100% of anything with the exception
Never.
of Jesus Christ. Now, we can all agree 100% that he's our Lord and Savior, right? But other than that, we're all men, we're all women, we're all fallible. We fall, but the moment we stop having crucial conversations with each other, then
Right.
everyone loses. And that's the final word. Thank you all for showing up tonight. I appreciate you guys, and we'll look forward to next week.
Hats off to that Secretary of War.
Amen.
Hoorah!